Books, the easiest way to get lost in another world or learn something new, either about a topic or yourself. Maps of imagined lands and dedications to your inner child. Books bring a little magic to everyday life. Hi everyone, and welcome back to my channel. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Amelia. I thought I would go through like my top 5 books of 2024. These are books that I pretty much just like vibed with. I also rent from my local library, so I do not have the physical copies of these books with me, so I will just throw pictures up here. I will not say any spoilers. So let us get into it. So the first book I want to talk about is Daughter of the Moon Goddess, which is the first book in the Celestial Kingdom series. I forgot how many were supposed to be in this series, but the rest of the series like hasn't come out yet. 503 pages, first published in 2022. And here is the little description. Growing up on the moon, Xingying is accustomed to solitude, unaware that she is being hidden from the powerful celestial emperor who exiled her mother for stealing his elixir of immortality. When Xingying's magic flares and her existence is discovered, she is forced to flee her home, leaving her mother behind. Alone, untrained and afraid, she makes her way to the Celestial Kingdom, a land of wonder and secrets. Disguising her identity, she seizes an opportunity to learn alongside the Crown Prince, mastering archery and magic, even as passion flames between her and the Emperor's son. To save her mother, Xingying embarks on a perilous quest, confronting legendary creatures and vicious enemies across the earth and skies. When treachery looms and forbidden magic threatens the kingdom, however, she must challenge the ruthless celestial emperor for her dream, striking a dangerous bargain in which she is torn between losing all she loves or plunging the realm into chaos. Oh, it says it's a romantic duology, so there will be a second book, and I don't think I said it's by Su Lin Tan. I loved this story. This took me a while to read. As I said, it is 500 pages. And you go through a lot with the female main character. I mean, you feel like you live 14 lives with her because she goes through a lot. This definitely skews younger. Like, I would say like teenage is like probably the target audience, though I did read that the author does think like it is for all ages. And I mean, I'm 30 years old and I did love it, but I just think the way it's written, how the romance is written, it's definitely like skews for a younger audience or someone who doesn't enjoy like spice and just a little bit of romance. I don't even necessarily know why, but I felt so like cozy reading this book and just very wrapped up and at home, and it was almost like an emotional support book. Like, it just gave those good lighthearted vibes, even though there were like darker themes and there is violence and gore in this book, but it still gave me cozy vibes. There's just something about the world building and the story. There is action and romance, and there are these things that I like. I will say it is kind of like if you combined Avatar: The Last Airbender and Throne of Glass kind of into one series. It is reminiscent of both of those, just way like the magic systems work and kind of some of the personality traits that the female main character has. I personally gave it a 3.75, which sounds really silly to then say it's one of my favorite books, but that was like based on, you know, if I am being critical of the prose and the dialogue and the like all of that stuff is what I kind of put into my end of year review. But for the sake of this, I was like, I really enjoyed this book. This book has stuck with me, and that feeling has stuck with me too. And one of my favorite quotes from the book is, "A glorious future beckoned on the horizon, yet I still clung to a shred of my past as a flowering peach blossom tree yearning for its fallen bloom." And I think that's a beautiful way to like kind of put that, of like, you want to move forward and there is this change and it is going to change, right? Like, the leaves are going to fall off trees no matter what come the fall, and yet you still want to hold on to a little piece of the past, even though you do want the future and you do want change, but the past is like comfortable. I just think that is a really nice way to put that. So that was Daughter of the Moon Goddess. Let's move on to probably my only like beachy type read, which was One Italian Summer by Rebecca Surley. 253 pages, first published in 2022. When Katie's mother dies, she is left reeling. Carol wasn't just Katie's mom, but her best friend and her first phone call. She had all the answers, and now when Katie needs her most, she is gone. To make matters worse, their planned mother-daughter trip of a lifetime looms. 2 weeks in Positano, the magical town Carol spent the summer right before she met Katie's father. Katie has been waiting years for Carol to take her, and now she is faced with embarking on the adventure alone. But as soon as she steps foot on the Amalfi Coast, Katie begins to feel her mother's spirit. Buoyed by the stunning waters, beautiful cliffsides, delightful residents, and of course, delectable food, Katie feels herself coming back to life. And then Carol appears, in the flesh, healthy, suntanned, and 30 years old. Katie doesn't understand what's happening or how. All she can focus on is that she has somehow, impossibly, gotten her mother back. Over the course of One Italian Summer, Katie gets to know Carol, not only as her mother, but as the young woman before her. She's not exactly who Katie imagined she might be, however, and soon Katie must reconcile the mother who knew everything with the young woman who does not yet have a clue. I cried so much at this book. This is a beautiful story of grief and mother-daughter relationships set in the most beautiful setting in the world. I think because I had like gone to Italy a few months before reading this, and I stayed in Sorrento, which is like just the opposite side of the Amalfi Coast, but the way the author describes Positano and Italy is dead on. So like if you've never been to Italy and you pick up this book, just know that what she is describing is like verified and real. There's even, I think it's in the back of the book, where Rebecca talks about like how she has been, and she's like verified things like with people there. So it is very realistic, and it made me want to go back to Italy so bad. Besides all of that, it is an amazing read. I think if you are a mother or a daughter, you should definitely pick up this book, because I think it really, like, this sounds weird, but like humanizes the other person, and you don't just see them in the role of a mother or in the role of a daughter. It's so interesting. It really makes you think. The ending is beautiful. As I said, cried hysterically the last 10 pages, and like not necessarily in a sad, like that sadness, but like the good sadness. Yeah, I gave this 5 stars, and I have Rebecca's other book on my to be read list. I think she is also a really great contemporary writer, where the descriptions and the conversation all just felt super natural and not like it was trying too hard. One of my favorite quotes from that book is very simple, but what got you here won't get you there. And I think that kind of sums up like the main theme of the story. Next, I'm going on to a series, because I've read both books in the trilogy this year. So this is the Fallen God Trilogy by Hannah Kaner, through God Killer and Sunbringer. I'm going to read the description for God Killer, because that is the first book in the series. Gods are forbidden in the kingdom of Midrin. Formed by human desires and fed by their worship, there are countless gods in the world. But after a great war, the new king outlawed them and now pays God Killers to destroy any who try to rise from the shadows. As a child, Kissin saw her family murdered by a fire god. Now she makes a living killing them and enjoys it. But all this changes when Kissin is tasked with helping a young, noble girl with a god problem. The child's soul is bonded to a tiny god of white lies, and Kissin can't kill it without ending the girl's life too. Joined by a disillusioned knight on a secret quest, the unlikely group must travel to the ruined city of Blenradin, where the last of the wild gods reside, to each beg a favor. Pursued by assassins and demons, and in the midst of burgeoning civil war, they will all face a reckoning. Something is rotting at the heart of their world, and they are the only ones who can stop it. I love this series so much. Each character, even minor characters, are so interesting and fascinating, and maybe not necessarily like lovable, but you feel like they are real and they have a whole backstory to them. I think the idea at the beginning of the description I read, where it talks about, you know, the gods and this god system, is also very fascinating. And I think the larger conversation in the book of like, what makes a god? What is a god? Are they only gods because people are praying to them? Is extremely interesting. It is an adventure book. Both are. And there are different POVs. So you will get like Kissen's point of view, you will get the young girl's point of view, you'll get the Jackalope's point of view, and you'll get the knight's point of view, which I always love in a book because, one, it rounds out the world so much. It changes the voice that's in my head. I do like give characters a voice, even though ask me to do an impression in real life, can't for the life of me, but in my head, it's flawless. And it moves like quicker. You know, it kind of switches things up. It's almost like the literary equivalent of the sand cutting videos that you'll put over like a longer video so you can pay attention. And I have very high expectations of Faithbreaker, and I would be shocked if I was disappointed. Yeah, this has been such a fun series to read. Oh my god, I forgot to read my favorite quote. Okay, this quote comes from Sunbringer. Knowledge can bring pain in place of ignorance, terror in place of hope. Whatever place your strength has come from, it is still yours. You choose what to do with it. Okay, the next one is Gothic Hannah by Runix, 459 pages, first published in 2021. An unusual girl, an enigmatic man, an ancient castle. What could go wrong? An outcast her entire life, Corvina Clem is left adrift after losing her mother. When she receives the admission letter from the mysterious University of Varenmore, she accepts it as a sign from the universe. The last thing she expects, though, is an old and secluded castle on top of a mountain, riddled with secrets, deceit, and death. An enigma his entire life, Vad Deverell likes being a closed book, but knowing exactly everything that happens in the university. A part-time professor working on his thesis, Vad has been around long enough to know the dangers the castle possesses, and he knows the moment he crosses paths with Corvina, she's dangerous to everything that he is. They shouldn't have caught each other's eye. They cannot be. But a chill-inducing, century-old mystery forces them to collide. People have disappeared every 5 years for over 100 years, and Corvina is getting clues to unraveling it all. And Vad needs to keep an eye on her. And so begins a tale of the mystique, the morbid, the macabre, and a deep love that blossoms in the unlikeliest of places. If you want dark academia and smut, this book is for you. I don't really seek out like spicy books, so to me, this is the spiciest book I have ever read. The middle section, like the middle chapters, it goes into pretty graphic detail. Now, I don't think this is the spiciest book just from what I've heard from other readers, but to me, who's like, okay, now kiss, like I want you to kiss in the book, we went someplace. And it was enjoyable. Besides that, this was a guilty pleasure read if there ever was one. I don't even necessarily mean the pleasure part. I mean like the two main characters are just the tiniest bit toxic, but in a good way. Like where with the series we just spoke about, where like, yeah, some of the characters are toxic or have flaws, but you feel like they're trying to work on them. These people are like working on them, but also giving into them, but like it's okay. There's a lot of talk of like madness. I think the quote I pulled even talks about it. So yeah, here, this will kind of sum it up. This is lust, she whispered, trying to validate it. Excuse it. No, Corvina. The side of his lips twitched. I have known lust. This is something worse. This is our barbaric need to possess, to eliminate, to own. This is madness. And that kind of describes what we're getting into. Aside from that, there is a plot to this story, like there is a mystery, so you do get like a little mystery, a little intrigue, but some things are like left to be desired in that department. But I wouldn't necessarily be like, oh, you're reading this for the plot. You are definitely reading this for the characters and the tension between the characters and where they're gonna do it next. Like, that's why you're reading this book. I loved this book. Also, in this book, before each chapter, the author, they put a quote and an image to kind of set up the scene of the chapter. And in the back, there is a playlist of songs that help them write this book. And I love that shit so much, because that is like how my brain works. I think that is how a lot of people's brain works when they are writing books or creating like another piece of media. There are things that inspire them. So to kind of get that is a fun little like behind the scenes look about what helped Runix write this book. The POV also changes in this, which, as I've stated before, is something that I really love in a book. And it was interesting. You know, I don't want to shit on the plot completely. I was definitely wondering where it was going to go, what was going to happen next, like what is the mystery. But again, like this isn't necessarily like a plot heavy book. You are just reading this for the characters. But if you love dark academia, gothic, a little weird, a little macabre, romance, you need to read this book. The last book, which I have recommended to people, it is a very weird, confusing, but oh my god, amazing read. It is This Is How You Lose the Time War by Max Gladstone and Amal El Motar. It's 198 pages, first published in 2019. It is a very quick read. It does have two authors, and what is interesting is each author took a character. There are like literally only two characters in this book, and wrote from their perspectives. So I will read the description and then get more into it. From award-winning authors Amal El Motar and Max Gladstone comes an enthralling romantic novel spanning time and space about two time-traveling rivals who fall in love and must change the past to ensure their future. Thus begins an unlikely correspondence between two rival agents hell-bent on securing the best possible future for their warring factions. Now, what begun as a taunt, a battlefield boast, becomes something more, something epic, something romantic, something that could change the past and the future. Except the discovery of their bond would mean the death of each of them. There's still a war going on after all, and someone has to win. That's how wars work, right? Co-written by two beloved and award-winning sci-fi writers, This Is How You Lose the Time War is an epic love story spanning time and space. Literally. So, each of the authors took a character known as Red and Blue and write letters to each other, and you are just reading the letters back and forth. There is zero ramp up of world building. You are thrust directly into it, and you gotta figure it out. The first three chapters I read over and over again because I was like, am I missing something? Like, is part of the book missing? And I think because I am very used to fantasy where it is like, and there was this person and that is what I am used to. This was a completely different way to read, a completely different book setup. I don't really think I've ever read sci-fi before, so it was a new genre that I was entering into. But oh my god, this book is so good. It is a quick read. It is near 200 pages, but I got through it very quickly, also because it was so fascinating. What is interesting that I really like that they did was when Red and Blue are writing to each other, they are talking about things that they are currently like working on, and they pretty much like thread and unthread time and timelines. So they will talk about like real things like Genghis Khan, and then not real things that have also happened, like Atlantis. So you definitely have this idea of like, what is real? What is time? What makes up time? The like very, God, what is that science called? I'm too dumb to even think what the science is called, but like very metaphysical of, is time truly linear, or is it, you know, Ouroboros, pretty sure is the snake's, you know, like eating his own tail. Like it does have a lot of that. At the end of the day, it is a love story that is written before you, even if, again, it is not the stereotypical, like, boy meets girl and they fall in love and then, oh no, something happens because of a miscommunication and then they get back together. Like, this is a very unique love story because they are rivals, and it's like not even necessarily enemies to lovers. It's like, can you get away from everything you've ever known, and are you willing to risk it all? And I highly recommend literally like every person read this because it was fascinating. And a very simple quote for a pretty confusing book, I will say, is, hope may be a dream, but you will fight to make it real. And that whole 5-minute spiel I did is basically to sum that up. So yeah, those were my favorite books of 2024. If I spoke about something and you were like, hey, I think you might enjoy this book, please let me know in the comments below. I'm always adding to my to be read. I am hoping to like read at a quicker pace next year and just try to make it more of a priority. So thank you so much for watching. Be sure to subscribe for more magical lifestyle content, and I will see you in my next one.